First question for you, which I ask of everybody, is how did you qualify for your SAG card?
I got a job.
Bravo!
Okay. I qualified for my SAG card, you know, with the Catch-22, what is it called? The deal where you work, they'll allow you to work. Taft-Hartley.
Yeah.
The Taft-Hartley thing, that's how I got my...
Do you remember what the project was? Was it a film or a commercial?
It was a commercial, and I flogged diamond walnuts, blue diamond walnuts. It was a great job. Actually what I had done was I got started working on film in educational television in Nebraska, OETA maybe, something like that. But in any case, I had done two educational films for Nebraska Educational Television. That's it, in ETV. During one of them, I got bumped off an airline. I took the bump because they gave me a ticket to wherever I wanted to go, anywhere in the United States. And so I took it, put it back in my suitcase and forgot about it for a while. And then one day I thought, well, geez, I'm really not doing anything here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I'm from. Spinning my wheels. I'm working theater, dinner theater. I'm picking up $12 a show, all I can eat. You know? All I can eat, as well as maybe a couple of glasses of wine on the weekend. You know, no more than two. But,
Two drink limits.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there thinking, geez, what? And I had a friend who lived out in Los Angeles, so I took advantage of the ticket and I went out. And at the time, there in Los Angeles, there was a group called the American Indian Registry for the Arts, and they helped newcomers who came into town with finding an agent. You know, they'd set up they'd call around to agents and see if they had an open book and if they were looking for people. And so that's how I got my first agent, was through them. Unfortunately, that group is no longer functioning. But my first agent was, I come to find out later on, after he called me on set of Last of Mohicans, he called and said, Wes, listen, I have this request to make of you. The office is in kind of trouble right now, and if I could just go ahead and have my percentage, the whole percentage for the whole project, up front. I said, geez, I haven't even made your percentage yet, you know. And that's how I got my card. But my first real job was actually out here, was in Santa Fe. I worked a television pilot. At the time, it was a pilot called Long Arm. I don't know if you guys were in the business at the time or not, but it was in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. About mid to late 80s that we shot at the Cook Ranch, and then Abiquiu and Ghost Ranch, and all around Santa Fe. It was I thought it was a pretty good Western, but it turned into a movie of the week and went away. But I more or less fell in love with New Mexico at that point, I think, you know, and then I guess it would be about 6 years later I moved here.
Moved to Santa Fe.
Yeah, yeah, moved to Santa Fe right after Geronimo, as a matter of fact. We had been living in Moab, and my wife was pregnant, and, well, she delivered in September. We moved there in August, and we were in Moab through that summer, so you can just, I sympathize with her. Oy. What she used to have, about all she would eat during the day, because Moab's so hot, was the guys down at the Dairy Queen got to know her, you know. Vanilla shakes, you Vanilla shake every day about 3 o'clock. There she comes. Here comes the pregnant lady. Whip it up.
Well, you have a considerable background in theater. I don't think many people know that you did a lot of theater before you started doing film. How did that transition happen? When did you decide to go into film, or did it just happen for you somehow?
It was a lucky set of circumstances. Actually, I was with a theater company in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the American Indian Theater Company, which at that time when I joined it was just beginning to sort of climb in influence, and as well as they were becoming popular. The town was beginning to know them, and they had a good following of people who attended their plays, and so their fortunes were coming along, and I just happened to be a part of them. I had been doing their workshops for a couple of years, and as well as doing a number of plays. I think the very first play I did with that theater company was Ravenswood. Anyone know Ravenswood? It's about a doctor who. But in any case, Ravenswood is was the first play that I did, and I stuck with him about 3 years later. This was because I got a divorce. I joined the theater company. I was looking for another family, more or less. And the family was made up of good-looking women and a few guys. Some of the guys you didn't have to worry about at all. But in any case, I get involved with that company, and about 3 years into it, they mounted a show called Black Elk Speaks, and they pulled in David Carradine to play Black Elk. Hey, it was 1984 or something like that. And also Will Sampson. Will Sampson came in to do. The late Will Sampson, to do Red Cloud and a couple of other roles. And those of us in the theater company had the opportunity to audition first because, well, it was our theater company. And so I got several parts on that. And it just so happened that NETV was there. A number of their casting and directors came down to take a look at any talent that might be found anywhere. So they saw the play, and then after the play, they auditioned all of us, and I got a part on one of those shows. We did something like 8 to 12. I don't remember. 8 to 12 short stories about this little boy named Nebraska, which is who the state is named after this young Omaha boy. In any case, we did those, and then. I continue to do theater whenever I have the time and the luxury. Theater is really it's a luxury. You have to make money someplace else because you're damn well not going to make it in theater, unless I suppose if you hit Broadway, you might be able to get a pretty good salary on that, but theater's just not going to do it financially. So if you can make some money some other way, then you have some time that you can put into doing some theater. But I've always held that if you're going to call yourself an actor, you have to act. You have to act, whether you do it for money or for the fame of it. For whatever reason you do it, you have to do it. It's like any other muscle. They say, you got to work it in order for it to work for you.
What was it that attracted you to acting and to this industry? What keeps you in it?
I think what initially attracted me to it was fear.
I think I know what you mean, but I don't.
Is that a cue for me to elaborate there?
That would help.
No, fear really was a part of it, because as I said, you know, when you're standing right there, before you come out on stage, for me, there was this huge wall of fear that I had to overcome in order to step out there into the lights and begin to do my stuff. Actually, there's that first wall, and then there's the wall right before you speak, right before you begin to do your stuff. And it was the exhilaration of overcoming those two fears that, hi Jim, that it gave me an adrenaline rush, something like an adrenaline rush. I was when I first came out of Vietnam, I looked for years, several years. I tried a lot of different things that gave me that sort of adrenaline rush that I had more or less become very used to. I was an adrenaline rush junkie, more or less. You know, because in a theater of war like that, you begin to live on a certain level. And it's hard to recreate that without going to jail or, you know. They frown on such activity. But no, I mean, I tried riding broncs, and I tried riding bulls, and discovered I was too old to be doing that kind of thing. And even some car racing, and just any kind of thing that. But it wasn't until I found that fear at the edge of the stage that I found an acceptable way to enjoy that kind of rush of adrenaline, you know.
So in some ways, acting or theater is like combat.
Yeah. I'm surprised you would ask me that.
You came, I wouldn't say late to the acting industry or to the acting world.
No, I say that.
But
I say that. I came to it late.
you didn't start until somewhere in your 30s, I believe.
Well, we won't deal with numbers, but yeah, you're generally correct. Yeah. I had a life before. Yeah, I had done other things with my life before becoming a part of this business. I don't regret it. You know, I don't think that there's anything else that I want to do. And it's something that I could do until the day I die.
You don't have to retire.
I retire in portions, you know. I don't like to be retired any more than 6 months, though. That's not good.
So you brought a life that you had lived already into this new world of acting, and I'm sure it helped you to be a richer actor because you had all of this to bring with you.
Well, I like to think so. Yeah, the job I told you about in Santa Fe, long arm. The only reason I got that job was because I was able to ride a horse, shoot a gun, and speak a language other than English, all at once.
I believe you. No, so you had been riding horses since you were young.
My father went to the same boarding school I went to, Chilocco Indian Agricultural School in northern Oklahoma, and what he learned there was the farming industry. He could easily have been, I think, a manager of farm properties, but instead all he could really find most of the time was handwork, ranch hand work, and that's where I spent the larger part of my growing up was on ranches, on other people's ranches. We worked for the Skelly Oil Company of Oklahoma. They had huge ranches as well, and so that was my first taste of show horses. They had palominos, and my father would train and show those horses for him, and that's where I kind of got a taste for those animals. And later on in life, I got into the business myself of Morgan horses. You know what Morgans are? Mm-hmm. I had up to something like 30 head at one time. Whew. They owned me.
That's a lot of work.
They owned and operated me, I tell you. It was, but I got out of that, and then came into show business, and I was on the set of Dances with Wolves, and in that, I had to have part of my head was shaved and everything. There's all this makeup and all of this hair is done like that, and I sit in that makeup chair and begin to reflect back on my life as all fingers and hands all over them doing, everything that you can imagine that's legal to my head. And I begin to think, this is the kind of stuff I used to do to my show horses. And I said, clip their ears and shave their noses and, sparkle up their eyes and, and here I said, they're getting me back for that now, aren't they? Yeah. Oh my.
Kind of make you want to canter out of that chair.
Canter, please. Yes.
Well, where do you see your acting career now? Where do you see yourself in the evolution of your career at this point in time?
I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still stealing stuff from other people. I don't think I'll ever be finished. I really don't think I'll ever be finished. I'll never be a finished actor because I refuse to get there, really. I mean, I suppose I could stop right here and say, well, I've done this and I know all there is to know about the craft of acting. But I can't do that because it takes all the joy out of acting, out of doing what we do because we love it. That's where I am now. I'm in the process. The process is something that I love much, much more than the end product. I love the doing of it, and I think I'll always be there.
And this, can you tell us about the films that you're shooting right now? They're based on Tony Hillerman books,
Yeah.
Thief of Time and Coyote Waits. You've just wrapped Thief of Time, and you start Coyote Waits tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us about the story of those? You're playing Joe Leaphorn, the detective.
I play Joe Leaphorn. With Skinwalker, we took some liberties in Joe Leaphorn's character in that we made him a little different, so that he'd have maybe a little bit more of an arc, a little more time and opportunity to develop. And so we put him in the process, more or less, and we made him into a fellow who had just been working Phoenix and other urban areas as a policeman and had come back to the reservation because his wife was getting cancer and wanted to come back and be with her people as well as, begin the healing process the way she knew it to be, rather than, just the regular chemotherapy and everything. So Joe more or less reluctantly comes back to the reservation, and wherein, as in the books, he's always been there. He's been a reservation kind of guy, and but Joe Leaphorn for us comes back out and begins to more or less relearn where he first started out, because his backstory is that he left the reservation as a young man, like 5, 6 years old or something like that. But he does have, some memory of how life was then. But he more or less became an urban creature, and is now beginning to learn to deal with living back on the reservation, and as well as continuing to work, which is his real passion, is that of solving mysteries and finding the bad guy, more or less. That's pretty much his life, and as well as he's deeply devoted to his wife, and that's another change that we made so far, is that Emma, who is Joe's wife, dies after or maybe even during Skinwalker's, the book. But with Skinwalker, the film, she lives. And that was because audiences really liked her. They did some testing, and they decided they really liked the actress's name is Sheila Tousey. But she got good numbers, so so she didn't die. So she's in this next one, but I think she'll probably continue to stay with us unless there's need of a real something heart-wrenching to she would die or something.
So does
And
that
then
difficulty?
Joe,
I'm sorry.
Joe could go away and have affairs and things like that.
Does that difficulty, with Joe Leaphorn, the difficulty between the two cultures, going back to his roots, does that continue in the next two movies?
It's a big part of that reentry and/or Joe's acceptance of that of this different lifestyle, more or less, is a big part of his character, and what like I say, it's a big part of the arc that he travels throughout these films, and we hope to continue to do all of his books. Tony Hillerman just, as a matter of fact, published a new one just a few days ago. I think last week it was in the paper. Some kind of I think it's called A Conspicuous Pig. Sinister Pig. Okay. I don't know where did that come from? Conspicuous Pig. You conspicuous
sinister. What's
Oh no! But we hope to do. I at least would hope to do all of them. And many times that has been the practice of PBS and well, the BBC is connected with it as well because of the Granada. It's I really don't know who all is part of it, but there's Wildwood, owned by Redford, who owns the rights to all of the published books, and maybe, I'm not sure, maybe any that would come out in the future. If he has that good of a contract, I don't know, but we would hope to do all of the books.
Have you found that difficulty in your life as well? The same thing that Joe Leaphorn has gone through, the difference in cultures. Is it difficult for you to go home and then come back to the city?
It's not difficult for me to go home. But I do have to ask myself, were I not an actor, would I be as accepted, as easily accepted back home, compared to if I were not? If I were still raising horses, or if I were still doing something else. Being an actor and someone that a lot of people know changes things. It changes how people initially treat you. It's really very odd. It's always gotten to me how there was this old Indian story about these Plains Indians as a tribe. They're sitting up here and they see a big train of people coming, and as they get closer and closer, these Indians sit up on the hill and they watch these guys coming, and they look at them and they look, oh man, those Indians are poor. They don't have anything, you know. They're not dressed well, and they're not, you know, they don't look good. You know, they look poor. So what do? They just say hello to them, they wave, but then make it known that they should keep on going. But next day, here comes along a group of another tribe of Indians, and man, they are dressed, and they got good horses, man, and the feathers and everything just flying, looking good. And what do these Indians up here on the hill do? Come on over, we're going to feed you, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do that for you. It's just an odd thing, but this happens in every, like, it's like, why is it stars get these free cars when they don't really need them, you know? But the poor guy, you know, what does he get? No, and nobody's rushing out to give him something. But I got off rambling there, didn't I?
We're right with you.
But it's an amazing thing that happens. It's I guess that's why the rich keep getting richer, kind of a thing. It's an odd thing about human nature, but it does happen that way. But,
so it's in other words, it might be easier for an actor to move between different cultures and situations, or more accepted anyway.
Yeah, because you're a curiosity in a way. You know, you are a personality that you know that is seen on the screen and such, and so thereby you become kind of a curiosity. And people want to see what you're really like, or you know, they want to check you out, you know. And so I don't know is probably the best way to answer your question about if I can go home or not. I can, but after they know me for a year, they might want to kick me back out. You know, after they see the real me. You know. But I enjoy going home at this point.
In your films, you've played a variety of Native Americans from different tribes, and oftentimes you speak the language in the film. Is it difficult or easy for you to go from one native language to another?
No, it's not simple. It's not simple. I try very hard to do languages justice, because I know how I would feel I know how I do feel when I see other people acting like they can speak Cherokee, and it's not a good feeling, you know. They're trying, and some people, some actors are capable of giving it a good shot, and I just hope I'm one of those guys that does kind of give it a good shot. But you know, it's all done phonetically. I like to think that because I do speak one other language other than English, that my tongue is more willing to experiment with other sounds, and my mouth is more willing to try making sounds that are foreign to me as a speaker of a couple of languages. But I think it does help to have a couple of languages under your belt with doing phonetics, mm-hmm. which is really all it is. And a lot of people do phonetics. As a matter of fact, the fella in The Last of the Mohicans, if you remember the film, there was a French general. Mm-hmm. That he was a real Frenchman. France, he's a big actor over there. I mean, he's very well known and a big time actor in France. But he had to do English phonetics. He did not speak English that well, but you know, he worked at it and got a semblance.
And he had a great accent.
See, that's the thing. Is with languages, you're always going to have an accent. You have to accept the fact that you're going to have an accent. You're not going to be able to do it, like the real speakers do it. You're going to have one, but accept it and move along with it.
Do people come up to you and say, "Well, I heard your form of my language, and well, you did okay here, but over here you could have used some more."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it from Pawnees and from Apaches, and yeah, I've heard it a number of times, and even Frenchmen. Ça n'est pas loin de la sagesse. That's supposed to mean there is no wisdom in this. There is no wisdom in this. And the only reason I can remember that phrase, if I do it justice, are there any French speakers here? It was perfect. But no, the reason I remember that is because of the day that we were shooting. That I had that line was the scene where Magua argues with Daniel Day's character, Hawkeye, in front of the Huron big man, and there's a waterfall way in the background like that. It's a beautiful scene, and the English officer, he's tied up to a stake, and he's they're getting ready to burn him, and it is hot. I mean, I think it was like July, mid-July, something like that. It's hot, and we have all of these fires going everywhere. Plus, we have additional lights, I mean, just to light everybody up, and it is hot, sweaty, and we're all talking different languages. We're trying to remember this and that. And what is it? I think the English chap was translating while Daniel Hawkeye was talking, turning it to English. And it was just, it was a mess, I tell you. And people are getting mad, and the crew was dragging around lines and jerking them here and there, and oh my God! And I had to say, "Ça n'est pas loin de la sagesse." Oh my God! It was a miserable day.
I remember that scene. There were a lot of accents. There were a lot of languages being spoken all at once.
All at once.
It must have been very confusing.
And the heat, humidity.
In Crazy Horse, you played Red Cloud, who attempts to be a bridge between, or compromise between, the encroaching settlers and his people. Mm-hmm. As Geronimo, you try to compromise, and of course it backfires. Then in The Last of the Mohicans, of course, compromise is out of the question for your character. How difficult is it to be a part of these stories, and what, if anything, do you expect people to learn from these situations?
That compromise, that compromise is a part of life, and that you have to look at more than one side of the picture, because looking at one side of the picture is very easy, very simple. In fact, it's a really good way to get away from the realities of life, is to just hone in on one aspect of an issue, say. And what this brings to mind is when I joined up with AIM back in the 70s. It was so easy just to believe the rhetoric and to think of the white man as the enemy and the Indians as the allies. It's so easy to do that without seeing their side of the story, or all of the gray areas between the two poles. It's so simple just to go one way, but it's also a very disappointing way to go, because there's nothing there when you more or less come to the end of your journey, or you accomplish your task, the task that you set out to accomplish, it's empty. There's nothing there. You've worked yourself into a lather, of hate, more or less, and you get there, and then you draw a blank. Okay, what's next? I mean, then you have to stop and reassess what in the world. Okay, it's more or less a matter of tearing something down, but then once you tear it down, then what have you got? You got something torn down. You've got to begin to rebuild. And that's when you have to begin to think, of all the different aspects of what makes a situation what it is at any time, So compromise is what comes of good negotiations, and compromise is something that man really cannot live without, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, as long as there are this many people in this one room here, there are going to be divergences of opinions on every subject you can think of, but somewhere there's got to be some kind of a meeting place in the middle between all of these different opinions, and that's where we create a harmonic kind of a life. I mean, we have to give up things in order to get things. It's an ongoing cycle of compromise. Otherwise, we'll be at one another's throats, maybe. I don't know. But that's what I would like.
Do you think that these movies that I just changed, that type of, I just mentioned, I'm sorry, can affect change and change people's perspectives on the subject, no matter where they're coming from?
I would hope so. I would really hope that they would. I think it's important for us to learn lessons from what we've done, the experiences that we've had, as well as what we have done in the past. Well, I hate to jump on an old cliche business about repeating your mistakes and that kind of thing, but it's true. We continue to do the same thing that we've been doing forever. It's not a great thing if we were to stop and assess ourselves as a society, as a race. We don't have here in America a really good record. And I'm talking about all of us. I'm not talking about all the different parts that we're making, but I'm talking about all of America. It never seems to learn. I think we're just doomed to continue to make the same mistakes that we always have. And that's not a good thing to live with. On the other hand, we do make great films. God, I was wondering, how am I going to get out of this one?
Just like that.
Preacher Wes.
Is there a story that you'd like to tell with film that you haven't told yet?
Mm-hmm. Actually, there is. There's a story that I would love to tell about a man named Ely Parker. Ely Parker was Commissioner of Indian Affairs during Grant's tenure. Ely Parker was a Seneca man he was a hereditary chief. He was a young man who was dealing with ambassadors from Europe, countries, France, England, the Dutch, the French. He was dealing with all of these dignitaries on behalf of the elders of this Seneca, because he had learned to speak English as a young man and being set up to become a hereditary chief. Well, he became their spokesman, and this was before he was even 20 years old. And he went on to forge a relationship with General Ulysses S. Grant before the guy was a president. When he was a general, and accepted the surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox, Grant's speech and writer, the guy who was writing up the terms of surrender, flaked out. They say he got so nervous that he just simply could not continue to do so. Either that or he had had really bad hangover, But Ely was standing there, and so he was an adjutant for Grant, and he wrote out the peace terms. Nobody knows that except me, and now you know it. But later on he went on to be appointed the first commissioner of Indian Affairs, and this is when we weren't even citizens. The Indians weren't even citizens at that point, but he became, because he was Grant's buddy, he became the Indian commissioner, and then while he was doing all this, he more or less left his people in a way, and they resented him for that. In fact, they still do. I think they still do resent the fact that he became a part of another world, and he more or less put behind him the fact that he was supposed to become the hereditary chief. He couldn't do both things, he just couldn't do it. But he went on to become, there's a canal in Rochester, New York, that he was an architect as well. He designed and built that canal. He built those customs houses in Illinois. There's a number of things that Ely Parker did. This is back in the 1800s, late 1700s into the 1800s. But he was an amazing man who crossed over from living as a Seneca to living as a brown white man. And he married a white woman in Washington, D.C., a dignitary, the daughter of a dignitary. And this really brought it down hard on him then. That's when the political process against him began to really mount at that point, and he was more or less driven out of office. But because he had given an order that this one tribe in Montana, they had done some raiding, and he had sent word that if they continued to do raiding on the settlers out there, that we're going to have to bring in the army. We're going to have to do you in, And so something happened. There were more raids that happened, and so Parker sent the army out, and they more or less wiped these guys out. And so then his white political the guys who were against him there in Washington, D.C. began to use that against him and more or less drove him from office. But he also became an investor in stock market and that kind of thing, and he finally wound up being a clerk in a library, sort of a broken man, but at least it depends on how you tell the story, whether he was a broken man or not. But he was one of the first who actually became a citizen of the larger world, and very few people know about him. And
sounds like a great story.
I think it is. I really think it is, and I'd love to.
Sounds like it should be shot here too in New Mexico.
No, I don't think so. Oh yeah. Ely and Ulysses come to Santa Fe. And we interviewed them at El Faro. See, they actually were. They were drinking buddies too. Because Grant was a big drunk man. Man, he loved that whiskey. And I think Ely liked it too.
Well, you've led a very interesting and rich life. What about filming your biography?
I find no interest in that. No, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as being.
Not yet, anyway.
Not at this point. No, I don't think so. I haven't done anything.
You've some of the films that you've done, you've died some very gruesome deaths. Comes to mind is Deep Rising. What a way to go.
How many of you saw Deep Rising? That's you and me and him. Well, I won't give it away.
Okay.
No,
And last of the Mohicans. Are those fun to do, or are they gratuitous at times?
Well, you know, we all, you only die once, they say, but when you're an actor, you have the opportunity to practice.
Point taken.
Hopefully not on stage.
Right. You've done considerable work, like I mentioned earlier, in theater, of course, film and television. Is there a medium that you prefer, that you like the most to work in? No, there isn't one that I like over the others. I love all three of them. I like stage, I like television, and I like film. Because it's the same process. Eh? Same process. How about you? Which one do you like? Well, I would love them all.
I'm sure you'll get your chance. Careful what you wish for.
You've written a couple of books, The Adventures of Billy Bean and The Further Adventures of Billy Bean. And these were done for a specific project, I believe.
Yes. I worked a bilingual education program for Cherokee Nation in Tahlequah, which is where I'm from. And how it started out was we were printing a newsletter that went out to the schools on a regular basis. And the director asked me, would you like to write a story for each one of them? And because they went out to the Indian kids in Title IV, I think, school. But they went out to all of the schools in the Cherokee Nation area, which is 14 counties. And so I started putting these little things together using the syllabary as well, the Cherokee syllabary. It's a written form invented by a man named Sequoyah back in the 1830s, before the 1830s actually. But I would write these stories, and after I don't know, about a year or so of doing this on a monthly basis, the director says, let's put these together and call it a book, and then we can send it out into the schools. Okay, great. So I inadvertently became a published writer. And a few months later, she said, these books are really doing well in the schools. Do you think you can write one that is a longer story, like instead of these little short ones, just one that's about 100 pages or so, something like that? Can you write one something? And I said, well, I'd like some time off. And I'd like my own typewriter. And that's when we still used IBMs and stuff. But yeah, that's how it came about. And I did the second one, and she paid me for it, and that's how that came to be. Billy Bean. I couldn't come up with another title. The Adventures of Billy Bean. Where do you go from there? Naturally, more adventures, right? And I gave him a girlfriend that time.
Yeah. You lead a very well-rounded life. I mean, your creative life is so vast. You're a writer, you're a sculptor, musician. You have a band.
Yeah.
You play bass, guitar, correct?
I play bass with the Fire Cat of Discord. Can I get can you say that for me?
Fire Cat of Discord.
Ah, thank you.
Not
Great.
backcord, but Discord.
Discord. There's no H. There's no H. It's a story. Actually, it's an Oneida story about they have this character in their stories called the Firecat of Discord, and he shows up whenever the world and people get to the point where they are just really messing up, going in the wrong direction, and life is not good. And so the Firecat shows up and he just fans the flames to even more so to just drive them to the max until the people either figure it out or they don't figure it out, So the Firecat of Discord is probably at a good time, but yeah. And we'll be playing at Indian Market this year. On the Friday night of Indian Market, we have the Lumpkins Ballroom. We're playing a benefit for the Native American Rights Fund. And we have the whole ballroom this time. I think we're going to have a couple of comedians as well, and just have a big show. And a few other artists like to drop by sometimes, and and sing a song, do something, tell a joke. But please come if you get a chance. It's usually a big event.
Are there directors or actors that you've worked with in the past that you'd love to work with again? I know you've worked with Michael Mann a couple of times.
I'd worked with Michael Mann in New York Minute. I really like the way he works. He's really hard on crews, but as far as actors goes, he's really good. The fact that he has such a focus and intensity about what he wants to do. This is a man who comes on the set and he has a plan. He knows what he wants to get that particular day, There's no wishy-washy this or that about it, and those are the kinds of directors that I do not like to work with. I like a guy who comes out there who has a plan. He knows, he's already seen it here, and he wants to create it there on the film, and whatever he has to do it, he spares nothing. That's a man with passion. Walter Hill is like that as well. I like Walter. He's much more laid back in terms of his own personality, but like I say, he comes onto the set with a plan, and by the end of the day, that plan has been realized. And that you can't ask for any more than that. But those are the two that stick out in my mind. I've worked with a lot of first-time directors as well.
First time, last time?
Oy.
Speaking of Geronimo, it was an incredible film. Not financially successful, but it starred you as Geronimo, of course. Robert Duvall was in it, Gene Hackman, Jason Patrick. It was an incredible film, and my wife and I both agree that now, after we've seen that whenever we hear the word Geronimo, we think of Wes Studi, and vice versa. I think it was a tremendous performance.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it actually, yeah, it was an odd set of circumstances surrounding that. I don't know. Some people have told me that whose story is it? Whose story is it really? And why so many of these big name guys on there? But I think it was a very well told story that perhaps had too many characters in it. I don't know. I mean, some people say that that's what they found. Well, who do we follow here? We thought the story was about Geronimo. Well, it sort of was about Geronimo, but then there were other, the other aspects of his life. That there were other people that made up the story of how, what happened, and sometimes that's not an easy thing to do without it being an ensemble kind of a story. You have people coming from different directions, and the mix doesn't always prove to be a really tasty soup to drink, But there was also what happened was, Ted Turner had his little Geronimo, which starred Joe Running Fox, and so a lot of us on the other set, the film set, we started calling it Joe Ronimo. but Ted Turner took advantage of all the press, is what I think. Now, this is just between us and the camera, of course. But there was confusion about, did you see Geronimo? Yeah, it was on TV last night. We saw it, because it came out just about a week or two before the theatrical release of Geronimo, an American legend. But I don't know. You can't cry over spilt milk. It would have been great if it had done well, But some do, some don't. I mean, that's.
What's the formula? I mean, what makes a successful film? Or is it,
You're asking me?
This?
He's asking me. Geez, if I knew that, I probably would be sitting over at I don't know, Sony or Disney or something. I don't know. I don't know that there's a formula. But this darn testing and everything is getting to the point where it's coming up with that films that are just.
That was written by the audience.
Well,
by the test
they're getting
audience.
to the point where they're just films. To me, seem like one film you can't tell it from another because of the testing. The what do they call them? The groups. But in any case,
Focus groups.
The focus groups. They go out and test them. Who do you like? What do you like? This and then anything you don't like, well, it's gone. So the films really don't take a chance anymore. They don't take a great leap of. They're not adventurous. They check and see what the audiences are going to like, and they ask them before they show it to them, and there's no gamble to it anymore. There doesn't seem to be the kind of suspense. But every once in a while, a film will come along and audiences will just absolutely love it. And that blows the minds of people who make films as well, just like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That sucker took off like crazy, and it was word of mouth. As a matter of fact, I had gone back to Tulsa, and I think this was about maybe a month into the film had been released, and I met this fellow there who I didn't. This guy doesn't go to films. I didn't think. I mean, he was a builder of some kind, and build malls and shopping centers and stuff like that. And he asked me, "Have you seen it yet?" What? My Big Fat Greek Wedding. We've seen it 7 times. 7 times, But yeah, every once in a while that happens, and usually and almost always what happens is that everybody starts making a product like that, right? That's what happened with just every successful film I do. One that makes money. Whew.
That was good. Well, these are questions from the audience, and I'll say the name and raise your hand so we can, Mr. Studi can see who he's talking to. It's from Jim Turr, over here. I think you know Jim.
No,
we'll
not
forget
that.
this one?
No, forget that. What
As
did
an
Jim
actor,
say?
I strive for natural acting style. Don't let them see you acting. But of course, that's easier if the character is close to your own personality. Are you tempted to stick to roles close to your own personality, or do you seek roles that will be a stretch?
Well, Jim. I like a stretch. I like a stretch if I feel like I can handle it. If I feel like I can do the part justice, I will give it a shot to stretch. But I also know there's a danger in stretching too far. And you might ask Arnold Schwarzenegger and Rambo, Sylvester Stallone. You know, when they try, ask Jim Carrey, audiences see you in a certain way, and they want to continue to see you in that way. Maybe change somewhat. I mean, stretch as much as, actually, I think the audience is the measure of how much you're going to be able to stretch. Because they give the feedback, right? I mean, they give the feedback to the stretching that any actor may do. And I think those are some things to consider, you know? But natural is good.
I can't read this name, I apologize, but maybe you'll recognize your question. How do you feel when somebody asks you for an autograph?
Who asked that?
Somebody who wants your autograph.
Well, I'll tell you.
Over here.
It feels a heck of a lot better than when they don't ask for your autograph. It does.
Diane, up here. What has been your favorite role to date and why?
I think it's a split. It's kind of a split between Magua and Geronimo. In that particular style of storytelling. One, because Magua was like that opportunity that I took to only see one side of the story. That was more or less who Magua was, and then there was Geronimo, who was pretty much a lot of times he was in that mode as well. I mean, a child of warfare. He was a man who knew only that. I mean, that was a lifestyle for him, and as he went on, he began to consider though other things. So he opened up a little bit more than, say, Magua did. But then I also have to say that I enjoyed playing Sagat in Street Fighter. You know, it's just total fantasy, you know. I don't have a favorite. You know, I really don't. I don't have a favorite. I think probably my most favorite is the one I'm going to do next, you know? Yeah, I mean, if it's a good one, the one I'm going to do next is the one I like the most, you know?
Do you have a particular way that you go about choosing a role or turning a role down?
First, I check my bank account.
Beyond the bank account.
Beyond the bank account. I like to, I like to read the script. If it's a character that I like, I want to do, and then I give it my best to get it, you know. But there are a few that I won't do. There are a few that I just don't feel is, there are some kind of roles that I personally don't want to play. You know, I don't want to play something like the alcoholic, abusive father. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, there's enough of that in reality. I don't want to play it. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Glenn Smuts, over here. How do you balance all of your pursuits? For instance, acting, writing, sculpting, etc.?
Precariously. No. Just it's a matter of finding time. Is what it is. It's you know. It's like I didn't work from December until March. So there are times when I have a lot of time to fill, and so I just go do it then. Because I'm not a commercial sculptor. I mean, I love to carve rock, but I'm not a commercial sculptor. There are plenty of really fine sculptors who live in the area here that are the real sculptors. Myself, I just play at it, and I just enjoy doing it. And then the music, of course, is something that is kind of like the secondary thing in my life, because it's kind of a family business. My wife is our lead singer, and then our group is more or less the people we socialize and have a life with, and I don't do much writing anymore. I consult with my wife and her writing partner who have been working on scripts, and actually have optioned a number of them over the years. But I have my input there. But I just whenever I have the time to do the things that I want to do is how I balance it all.
Dale Waseta, right here. When you attended college, what did you major in and minor in? And do you have words for natives, newcomers in the movie biz?
I majored in sociology, political science, and beer bar. No. Actually, that's and had to take it over to education, and actually never really used it. For a while, maybe a couple of years, I worked for programs, Indian programs in cities and for Cherokee Nation as well, but I never really used that education for anything. I was on the GI Bill. I liked using the GI Bill, and I used it up, and that was my education. But for people, newcomers coming into the business, I'd say, if at all possible, develop a thick skin. Don't take it too seriously. It's once you begin to work, you're probably going to work again. It's a matter of dedication. It's a matter of you really have to give it your all. It's not something that you can just play around at and say that, yeah, I'm a part-time actor. There's no such thing. Or that my real job is this. Acting has to be your real job. It has to be your life. It's not compromising. I mean, you're either there and doing it, or you're not. I don't believe in half measures when it comes to that. You have to give it your all.
Is there a key to maintaining a career, a successful career?
Yeah, have a good agent. Well, you have to maintain it, by doing it. You have to maintain your tool. Maintain your tool in terms of image, and maintain your tool in terms of being able to do it, to act. And if it's if it's a huge feature, you make great bucks at it, or if it's theater and you do it for free, you got to do it. It's like my wife says, it's a muscle that needs to be continually worked, or it goes flat, So that's.
Anthony Trujillo, over here. There's three quick related questions here. What actors inspired you to become what you are today? What actor or actress is your favorite? And who do you look up to?
I liked while they weren't actually inspirations. Chief Dan George, the late Will Sampson, and Jay Silverheels actually were people that actually amazed me. When Jay was playing Tonto, one time I asked my father, I said, is he a real Indian? He looks like a real Indian, doesn't he? He said, yep. So I asked him, how easy is it, for us to get in there? Do you think I could do that? And then I was just a kid, at the time. And he said, no, I don't think so. No, I don't know how he got in there, but he's probably Italian. So that was that, as far as I was concerned at that point. I figured, well, he also said, well, you have to be 6 foot tall, and you look like Rock Hudson or somebody, But that was his view of it at the time, and I more or less accepted it. But later on, I did see, along came Chief Dan George, and he's not 6 feet tall, and he definitely not pretty, But and then Will Sampson, he started showing up in films, and they more or less were the guys who kind of broke the wall for Indians, and I look up to them for that fact, and I would like to have worked with, actually I worked with Will on a stage play, but I never got on film with him, but I would have liked to have worked with Dan George as well, but
Were they responsible in some way for paving the way for Native Americans
I think so,
to get
yeah.
into film?
I think they were. As a matter of fact, there was talk of nominating Dan George for his role in I think Outlaw Josie Wells, Outlaw Josie Wells, and the word around Hollywood was that, well, he is an Indian, he's not acting. That's what the Academy said. He's not acting. He is an Indian. That's how they all act.
Oh boy.
But yeah, these guys were the ones that got us started back in the 70s, and we hope to live up to what they did for us.
Patricia Desrosiers, right here in the front row. What would your best advice be for new actors getting started in the industry?
My advice? Get a real job. No. No. I think just doing it. I really can't come up with any great advice because, like I say, I'm still at it. I approach the task of auditioning and getting a job just like I did when I first started. You walk in, people see you, and they want to see something. They want to see something happen. So you walk in and you try to make something happen. You take the lines that they give you and make a moment of it. But dedicate it yourself to it. You got to believe it. Whatever is written there that you're supposed to say, you absolutely have to believe it yourself. Even if it's just for 4 minutes, you have to believe it. This thing is like it knows when you're lying. I may not know when you're lying, but that camera picks it up. And stages, audiences that are watching stages, they can't be fooled. So you have to believe it.
Casey Scott, back here. Is any progress being made in casting Native American actors in non-race specific roles?
To a certain extent, I think to a certain extent we're starting to cross over a bit. Ethnically non-specific. I've done Deep Rising was like that. Heat was like that. And Street Fighter. I don't know, however, that if that's happening at all levels. I don't know that the beginning actor is going to have a shot at playing something that is ethnically non-specific. I myself would never have gotten the start were it not for playing a period Indian. I couldn't have gotten started because I don't think anybody was going to hire me to play Finch on Just Shoot Me or something like that. But I think it's happening on some levels. Perhaps not as much as we'd like, but I think it's moving in the right direction.
Are there scripts being developed by Native writers, producers, Native Americans becoming producers and filmmakers themselves? Is there a trend in that area?
Yes, not quickly enough, but yes. We have our foremost director is Chris Eyre. He's done Smoke Signals, and he's directed a number of films now, probably 4, but he's our foremost Indian director in America. I don't personally know any Indians who are producing above, or I shouldn't say above, but that are producing anything other than documentaries. I could be wrong. I don't know everything, but it would seem at this point in time I should know everything.
Richard Barella, over here again. How would you like to direct your own show here locally?
I'd like to. I would like to. I've directed actually a short film that we shot around Santa Fe several years ago. My friend wrote it. We found some money and we shot it. All in, I think it was 6 days. In the snow. But anyway, it's a little film, a short that we sell, called Bonnie Looks Away's Iron Art Wagon, and I used most of the crew that we're using now, as well as I got to direct a scene when Chris Eyre played a judge in Skinwalker. But what I haven't done is directed stage. I haven't directed stage. As far as movement on stage and everything, I can work with actors. I don't know that the visual of a stage, I don't know that I could do that, but I'd like to learn how to work movement on stage. But as far as acting goes, yeah, I can work with actors. They don't mess with me, I tell you.
Well, we're sitting in a theater that you might try practicing in sometime, your directing skills. Candace Costello? Right here. How seriously and how long did you become involved with AIM? What functions did you participate in?
AIM. Well, you know, I really started out with a group called National Indian Youth Council, NIYC. I think it was active here in New Mexico, even more so and further west, and was moving into the Oklahoma area where I hooked up with them. You know, college students is where, you know, they did most of the recruiting, and I hooked up with them at about the time of let's see, about 69 or something like that, and I hooked up with them, and then the Trail of Broken Treaties, the AIM guys got that started out on the West Coast, and started coming across. You know, they did the big demonstration, Plymouth Rock, and all of that happened back east, and then they decided to put this 20-point proposal together, take it to D.C., and hopefully negotiate with government people about it. But in any case, they became the, you know, there was Russell Means and Dennis Banks, and, you know, and they all looked great and young and had the braids and the feathers and everything. Boy, hey, these guys are looking good, and they're getting girls too. But in any case, all of that was going on, and you know, we were already pretty politicized at that point, you know, because of after Alcatraz and everything, and being in college at the time. In any case, it was a very political time in our world. So by the time the 20-point proposal and Trail of Broken Treaties got started, well, they came through Oklahoma, and we decided, okay, let's go to D.C. with them. So we went to D.C., and of course, all hell broke loose at the BIA building, and you know, within 30 minutes, we'd taken over the building, you know, because the little fight started up, and they were trying to have us. They had, I mean, it was the government more or less put together this deal where, okay, you can go stay at these churches here while you're all here in town, and they put us in these freaking basements, and it was, you know, it was not an hospitable place. But in any case, what happened was the building was taken over, and we held it for something like 7 days, right? And it was just politics of all kinds happening. And that's when I got hooked up with AIM. And then after D.C., I went back to Oklahoma and continued to do other things down there. We took over a little town, and over in Cheyenne country, we took, I forget the name of the little town, but we took over the post office, and we ran the police off and used their telephones and stuff. You know, it was, like I said earlier, you know, it was a good time for me to be able not to think about the bigger picture, to hone in on one aspect of stuff. And that's what I did. And then it was soon thereafter when they took over Wounded Knee up there, and so we all went up there in caravan. And I've worked on the outside, mostly getting supplies in, and I was traveling with this Iroquois guy. He was a Mohawk, and what he was doing at that time was, he was more or less continuing to spread the Iroquois Confederacy. You know, I mean, this is something that they continue to, you know, it's a part of their life. And this is what he was doing, and I was following him around, being his helper. Plus, you know, he was kind of like a medicine guy, you know. And so what we did was worked around on the outside, and then we went in a couple of times, came back out. And then the last time we were taken in a truck, and we got stopped by an APC, and we were, you know, ran around out in the fields there for a while, but then they finally, you know, they captured us. We had a 2.5-ton truck And we were carrying in food, mostly food, but then of course there was a few other things in there as well, you know. But we got caught and handcuffed, and you know there was a good military presence there, you know. There was quite a number of soldiers there, so we became the captured Indians, and then they put us in jail for a while, and then told us to get the heck out of the state, you know. But then that was about, I think it went on for another month or so before everything, you know, they decided to go off and do jeans commercials instead of, you know.
And walnut commercials.
No.
Marion Lewis, right over here. Have you ever gone through a period of discouragement? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Probably 4 or 5 months after having done my first job out of LA. I think that was probably the roughest time. My car gave out. My roommate was threatening to throw me out. And I had this flute, this Creek guy gave me, and I would go out and I would just make mournful sounds with it out on the balcony, you know, to the point where my roommate said, "Geez, can't you play something else on that thing?" You know, but I got pretty darn discouraged. But a good friend of mine who's going to work on Coyote Waits had been out there for a number of years, and she said, "Here, take my car. Since you don't have one, use my car." And she let me use it for about a month, something like that. And just that kindness sort of picked me up, and you know, it made me feel somewhat better. Plus, I could get around, and actually, that was when I found some other works with that car. You know, some good auditions and such. But that was probably the worst time. Right after the first job, I began to start thinking that, geez, I'll never work again. You know, I'll never work again. Was it that bad? Did I do that badly? And I hadn't even seen it yet, you know. But yeah, that was probably the worst. Otherwise, I stayed busy doing something, you know. That's my answer to almost everything. Just get busy doing something, you know, and you can kind of forget about what you're about.
Isaac?
There.
Oh, behind the camera. There we go. What would you see your role, or what do you see your role as in regards to aspiring student actors? Do you ever give acting workshops?
No, I don't. I don't give acting workshops. Mainly because I don't know that I have. I don't know that I have anything to teach anyone. You know. And I don't know how to go about it. I've studied with one woman named Joan Darling. You may have heard of her. She stays up in Santa Fe a lot. I think they actually live up there. But I first ran into her in Los Angeles, and my wife, not my wife at the time, but she was studying with Joan. Pardon me, and. I went to a couple of her workshops, and there's just something special about people who can teach, people who can impart ideas or you know, bring performances out in people that she's wonderful at it. I don't know that I could do that. You know, I think I can work with actors who are more or less, you know, there not to be taught, but to be directed. But if people are there to be taught, I don't know that I could fill that need, you know. I don't, and if I'm not going to trust myself, they're not going to get anything out of it, right? You know, so I haven't, no.
Cherie, over here. Is there a director that you haven't worked with, but you would like to work with?
Yeah. Yes. I'd like to work with Tim Robbins. You know, he's weird, right? I mean, he kind of has a weird thing, and I just wondered, you know, it'd be kind of a test of myself to see if I could be weird enough to fit into his stories, you know. And the other one is Woody Allen. Just because he's never had anyone on there that, you know, wasn't from New York or something, you know? Yeah.
That might shake him up a little bit. Mark? Over here. How did you get involved with The Last of the Mohicans, and how did you approach researching your character?
Well, first of all, I think the character was pretty much on the page to begin with. And it was sort of expanded as time went on, and we were, you know, shooting up in the mountains of North Carolina. I think Michael has an affinity for the bad guy, or an affinity for the guy who is striking back, that kind of thing. And Michael sort of liked the character of Magua and kind of developed him a little more than what was on the original page. But as far as preparing my own mind for the way that Magua felt about the settlers, I only have to look back at history, you know, and a lot of that stuff has happened to my people, you know, people very close to me. And it's actually not much of a stretch. But I came about finding that job through auditions. I first met the casting woman, Bonnie Timmerman, and I brought with me, of course, a shot from Dances with Wolves, you know, with the roach and everything, and she told me at that point, said, no, that's from another film. Don't show him that. Don't show him that. So I took my picture back, and then I went in to read for him, for Michael. And he said he had to go out, you know, I'll be right back, excuse me. I had to go take care of something. So I took my picture out. Stuck it on the picture from Dances with Wolves. I stuck it on his desk. And he came back in and said, okay, good, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. All right. And then I got a call back about a week later. I went back about 2-3 times, something like that. But the end result, of course, I don't know if the picture had anything to do with it or not, but I got the job, you know.
How much of that particular role, it's such a searing, understated role in performance, how much of that comes from you and how much of it comes from the director?
It all has to come from me. Michael can suggest this, and Michael can tell me that this is my concept of this man. This is what I want to see in this man. This is what's going on right at this particular time in this film, in this story. He can give me all of the outer direction, but everything has to come from here. It has to come from me. I mean, he can lead me there, but at the end of the day, it all has to come out of here, because that's the only thing that camera is seeing. It's not seeing Michael, the director. It's seeing this. You know, so it all has to come from in there.
Is there anything that we can look forward to seeing you in the future besides the films we've talked about today, the Tony Hillerman films?
Oh, yeah. there's a film that I did with Chris last year called oh geez, Edge of the World. I think it's going to be called Edge of the World. It's going to go to Sundance, and it's a basketball story about. It was supposed to have been called Shiprock. There was a controversy that happened around Shiprock, and the whole film was moved up to Salt Lake. So we shot it up there, and it's about the basketball team, girls basketball team from the 80s. That it was a great humans. There's a documentary as well. I love the documentary. It's a great story too. But we shot that last year, and it's going to go to Sundance, and it's called The Edge of the World, wherein it's sort of a comic part that I have. I think I'm funny anyway. But I have a niece in it. Her name is Delana. Delana Studi is one of the featured basketball players, and she's really good. I mean, I'm building a dynasty of actors here. They will be called the Studi Group. No, but no, she is very good, and I think hopefully gets a deal out of Sundance. Otherwise, it'll be airing on Showtime, who initially put the money up for it. And I have a small part in The Alamo with Dennis Quaid, which will be out. I think they're shooting for a November release on that.
Has that film wrapped, or are they still shooting?
I think they're still shooting. They started in January, but they have a huge set, man. Oh, they rented out this ranch, more or less, over around Bee Springs, I think it's called. It's outside of Austin, but they've built a set that's probably a mile long. Because there's actually the Alamo. It's in a beautiful valley, big green valley with water through it and everything. But they built the Alamo at one end, and then they built the town of I forget the town's name, but San Jacinto. Yeah. Okay, that town, and then they also built the huge chapel there as well, and it's about a mile long. It's a huge set. I didn't work there, however.
Were you stuck in the studio?
No.
No.
We shot at a little place called Wimberley, Texas, at their blue swimming hole. It's a little creek there, and they built a Cherokee town on the. See, Sam Houston was a guy who was more or less raised by Cherokees. He was raised by the character that I play. He's called, they call him Bowl. He's Chief Bowl, Gadawal Chief Bowl. And he more or less raised Sam Houston from a little boy. And he's down in the film, Sam Houston comes back to where they see, Bowl was some guy, a Cherokee guy who moved down into Texas at the request of Mexicans, when it was still Mexico. They had opened up land, and Bowl and the guys had been living, his bunch had been living up around Oklahoma and Arkansas, but the settlers were still keep coming in, so he was a guy who had just always moved away. Mexico opened up, so he started moving down in that area, and along comes, after a while, here comes Sam Houston, and starts building this republic, right? And Bowl is down there living in Texas as well, and saying that he's trying to talk him out of doing it. Come on back and live with us, because that you can be our interpreter and stuff like that. Since we raised you, why don't you just stay with us? But no, Sam Houston decided, he'd rather go back with his drinking buddies and build a republic. That's Texas for you. Okay, how many Texans do we have? Oh, I was afraid I felt that.
Do you have any final thoughts for us on acting, for young actors, for film in general? Is there anything that you'd like to impart to our audience before we wrap it up?
Don't be late for your call time. That's about the best advice, is parting thought that I can leave us. Do not be late for your, unless you're Van Damme or somebody.
Was he always late?
Don't get me started. Thank you very much for having me. This has been a great time, and I'm all talked out.
Thank you, Mr. Studi. Thank you so much.
And thank you.